Well, hello and welcome. So, my name is Diana Gasparoni, and I am the founder of Be.WELL Psychotherapy. And I am very excited tonight to present to you our very own doctor, which I love saying, Dr. Victoria Rodriguez. So, Dr. Rodriguez works at Be.WELL as a psychotherapist, and she also, in her spare time when she's not running, and working in a hospital and doing all the things that she does. She works in strategic leadership. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
Sure. So
yeah.
I'm
Please.
close. I'm close. So her presentation tonight is on mental health and leadership and leaders and mental health, which I'm really excited about, and how important it is that you are paying attention to all of that. So I am going to turn the mic over to Dr. Rodriguez.
Hi everyone. I am going to pull up my slides. So just give me a little brief second, and we'll begin. All right. So let's go back. So today's topic, again, thank you guys for all showing up. I'm, again, Dr. Rodriguez. Today's topic is going to be on the importance of mental health for leaders and those you as leaders lead. So with that, before we begin just kind of going into the nit and grit of it, that's me, a little bit about me. I am a licensed social worker, psychotherapist, as Dana was saying, business and leadership development strategist, and running coach. My background's in psychology, sociology, social work, and now strategic leadership. I have 16 years of experience in health and mental health care, healthcare administration, business and leadership development, and developing and managing complex projects and programs in both the nonprofit and for-profit sector. As a psychotherapist, you work with a variety of clients from all different types of backgrounds, depression, anxiety, mood disorders. I really try to blend my background in leadership coaching and business development as well, and really help my clients if they so kind of want to go that direction in achieving their career goals and overcoming obstacles in the workplace. Really just focusing on an overall more well-rounded and healthier, balanced lifestyle, just so you really can be the best versions of themselves. So now into the presentation. I just wanted to kind of begin with just some statistics. As we kind of can all agree, or most of us can agree, there's a lot going on in the world right now. With the onset of the pandemic and just political and social unrest, and just what seems like an unraveling of events in 2020 and kind of continuing into 2021. There's a lot of stressors. People are really feeling it. Some research and studies done last year by the EPA and just kind of other organizations in the psych realm note that 8 in 10 adults, that's roughly 78% of adults, at least those surveyed, listed the pandemic as a significant source of stress. So again, just kind of really showing that stress is on the high, and it doesn't really look like it's going anywhere for the time being. 42% of employed persons reported higher levels of stress. They reported either high or very high levels of stress in comparison to kind of just what it had been before the pandemic. The APA is anticipating that kind of the next national mental health crisis is going to, or the mental health crisis as a result of the pandemic and all these additional stressors is going to continue for years past the pandemic. So what does this mean for leaders? This means kind of leadership and leaders having to refocus and kind of look at how they're dealing with their staff and how they're kind of, in the long and short of it, dealing with themselves and their mental health. So leaders are now finding themselves in this unique and challenging position where they have to lead not only in a way that ensures that the organizational can, meet its metrics, continue being successful, and, reach the outcomes it sets within its goals, but now also needs to ensure, or should continue to continue ensuring that the physical, emotional, and mental well-being of their teams is really where it should be. high functioning or high producing organizations, those that kind of can really meet their goals and their metrics or however they set, tend to have higher functioning teams. So to have a higher functioning team, you really have to kind of reestablish that focus on mental health. So again, leaders are finding themselves in a place where not only do you as a leader need to manage your levels of stress effectively, because things are still going on outside of work, right? I think we've all in different ways have experienced kind of our own feelings, our own emotions, everything that's kind of going around, having to kind of manage that stress and then go into the workplace and manage the stress of others. And you have to continue to lead through it all. So there's this kind of dual management of having to not only deal and manage our own stress as leaders, but also to ensure that the mental health of your employees or your teams is also managed. So all these additional stress, this dual management, can really impact a leader's bandwidth and ability to lead clearly and effectively if kind of not managed effectively. So again, this kind of brings us to the role of the leader. So the role of the leader is to ensure that you or that they stay emotionally healthy, so that they can lead successfully, and also to create a company culture that's invested in employees' mental health, that provides their team the resources that they need to do their job successfully. And we'll go a little bit as the slides continue into both of those elements, but just kind of to, I guess, pinpoint what kind of the two roles are. So leaders really need to start, or should, if they haven't been, normalizing investing in mental health, not only for themselves, but really, kind of model that behavior and that understanding for their employees to ensure their employee well-being, and also the ensuring employee well-being will lead to optimal productivity and reaching goals with organizational goals. So what makes a good leader? This slide, I wanted to kind of just go over a few elements or traits, characteristics, if you will, of effective, high successful leaders. These skill sets I want to bring up because they are ways that if you're invested in them, or you kind of build them up either through leadership development or personal development, can actually aid in how well you manage your own mental health, but also how well you manage the mental health of your employees and teams. So some skill sets that leaders kind of are known for, that effective leaders are known for, are high emotional intelligence, and that kind of, I guess, would translate to having high levels of empathy, being able to kind of really understand where others are coming from, even where yourself are coming. It's kind of connected to having a high levels of self-awareness. Self-awareness, again, that can kind of let you see things from a bigger picture and kind of really recognize things that are not only going on within yourself, but in others. Ability to communicate effectively and authentically. Again, the ability to communicate effectively really does translate into kind of building trust, building rapport, both things that are necessary really to kind of have your teams, want to listen to you, to kind of have that relationship that will lead the way to being able to effectively discuss things like mental health. Model positive behaviors, so modeling the behaviors that you want your employees to kind of follow, and that's can be consistent with mental health, right? If you're modeling those behaviors that are working for you to better your mental health, and it can kind of translate into employee buy-in for those same behaviors. Building connections, again, so we can kind of connect to the ability to communicate effectively, to build trust, to show that you're authentic and kind of there and willing to show up and go the extra mile for your staff. Ability to think innovatively. And this, again, can be connected to problem solving, kind of thinking outside of the box in ways that, what is going to effectively work for my team in this season to kind of help manage that, or what resources can I leverage? In terms of mental health, like maybe your organization has a budget to invest in mental health. Maybe there's not, so it's kind of like, how can you think innovatively within those kind of confounds to make sure that you're delivering the resources that you need to your staff? And adapting to the needs of those they leave. So again, that can kind of connect to high emotional intelligence in terms of being able to empathetically kind of relate to those that you're leading. So historically, these have kind of all of these traits and others additionally have been associated or have assisted into high efficient organizations, and acting efficiently, high organizational success, and higher employee satisfaction. Again, it's kind of taking these, thinking outside the box and linking them to how you can, innovatively create an environment that promotes mental wellness and overall well-being for your employees and staff. So important things before we kind of go again into, how can you manage your mental health? How can you most effectively manage the mental health of your staff? A few things to recognize about your own mental health as a leader. Before leaders can even begin to promote a company culture invested in mental health, emotional well-being, just kind of taking care of yourself, you need to first take an honest look at your own mental wellness. This, may mean digging deep and kind of asking yourselves the hard questions, or kind of, taking that, levels of self-awareness and really kind of, really seeing where you're coming from, like where you're at in terms of your own functioning and mental health. You will not, with that, if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not taking care of your mental health, you will not be able to entirely create the space for others and be able to effectively model those behaviors necessary for your employees and your staff to invest in theirs. It's very difficult as a leader to effectively and completely serve from a cup that's half full or half empty. You kind of want to look at that. But so, really kind of making sure that you have the bandwidth, that you have the, the space that you need to be able to lead effectively is very important. And also this kind of, again, kind of pulling from those traits that we had listed, or some of those, you may require pulling from your emotional intelligence and using your self-awareness to recognize the importance of investing in your mental health. Sorry about that. So ways to take care of your mental health as a leader. So there's a variety of ways. These are just a few. Caveat to this is, everyone's kind of is their own unique individual and has their own kind of leadership style. There's a lot of different leadership styles, and it's kind of really finding a blend or working these in a meaningful way that's going to effectively work for you and help you to kind of lead in the best way, again, for you, for your organization, and for your team. There's really not kind of a carbon copy of things that's going to translate from person to person. So it's really kind of in taking those steps and recognizing where your mental health is to, kind of really recognize what might resonate, what might work for you. So the first thing really that anyone can kind of do or kind of creates that space is really taking a step back and acknowledging your feelings and recognizing when you need space. If you're, and again, this kind of pulls from the emotional intelligence piece and just kind of knowing when things might feel off. It's really recognizing, like, if you're feeling a little bit extra stressed, or if there's certain aspects that are making you, either heightening those levels of stress. Maybe they're from pre-pandemic, maybe they're, kind of increased during the pandemic, or within everything that's going on. But it's really taking a moment, acknowledging that, maybe I do need to take some space. Maybe things aren't working as effectively. I'm seeing areas in my leadership or the way I'm relating to my team, maybe not going as smoothly as I would like them to go, or as smoothly as they have been going. So it's really kind of taking a step back and recognizing that. And with that, recognizing your trigger points. Are there things in the workplace that maybe kind of, that do create additional stress? Are there certain conversations? Are there certain projects? Are there things that, you're carrying over from your personal life that are also kind of impacting your work? And, just kind of recognizing where those things are so that you can kind of, you can recognize or kind of begin to see what steps and in what, boundaries or what coping strategies you might be able to implement. Again, those that are going to work effectively for you. Opening up about your mental health. So this one is extremely important, and we're also going to talk about, they're all extremely important, but I want to take a little bit extra time to highlight this one, because we're also going to talk about it in terms of breaking stigmas when we get to how to best, kind of lead your employees and your staff to better mental health. So opening up about your mental health just really means, being vulnerable, talking about kind of what you're feeling. That vulnerability can translate into, again, having your team and your employees better relate to you, seeing that you're, an entity that, that is going through some of the similar things that maybe they are, maybe they're not, but it really kind of creates this environment where people feel more comfortable, and may trust and believe kind of more in those strategies that you're setting up or want them to kind of partake in as well. It's also connected to, modeling behaviors. If you want your team and your those that you're leading to be able to, communicate what's going on and come to you with that, so that you can kind of recognize where are things that you need to change or what kind of resources do you have to implement in your organization. You want them to be able to open up to you. So showing that you can open up can also kind of pave that way, and make it potentially a little bit easier for them to feel comfortable doing that. Take care. And again, going back to that, it can just be also overall just healing for you to kind of open up and recognize that. Taking care of yourself physically to ensure mental wellness. And this, again, just kind of goes to recognizing when your bandwidth might be stretched. It's ensuring that your basic needs are met. If you're, not sleeping right, if you're not eating right, if you're not getting movement in your day or, at some points during the week, if you're not staying hydrated, all those are things that are going to impact just your overall bandwidth to deal with stress. So if you can kind of make sure and set space and include in your routine, and again, there's going to be some days where, maybe you don't get to this or maybe you don't get to that and you have to kind of, balance it a little bit. But I think overall creating a healthy routine that encompasses all of those aspects is going to help build your mental resiliency and set you up for overall just success going into each day. I guess any of us can probably remember a time if we didn't sleep right, we didn't eat enough, that it just kind of, again, it lowers our capacity to be able to kind of deal with things. So you want to just make sure those things are kind of in place. Set yourself up for success in your routines. So this means, again, just kind of taking, looking at your day, finding space and kind of creating those elements or adding those elements that are going to effectively give you that time or kind of create or better or help you with giving you that bandwidth that you need to manage and lead effectively. That might be incorporating, a meditation or a prayer time in the beginning of the day. It might mean, allowing some extra time for your, movement and exercise and kind of creating those healthy habits that are going to proactively extend your bandwidth so that when stressors come in, you do have kind of that, again, additional mental capacity because you've been allowing yourself to kind of have that space. Have go-to coping strategies to deal, to help you get through times when you're feeling overwhelmed. So there's going to be points, especially kind of, and again, in your leadership role, when maybe you have to deal with an employee who's additionally stressed or a project that's not going to be, met in the time frame it was supposed to because of all these other external factors. So again, maybe having those strategies that work for you to kind of allow you to take a step back in the moment. Maybe it's, having a safe space in your home or work that you can go to and again, like give yourself a couple of minutes. Maybe it is meditating. Maybe it is, kind of a breathing practice that you can interject, regardless of location. So, again, it's kind of recognizing those things that might help you offset some of that additional stress when those things come on. Do not isolate and withdraw. This kind of comes to, again, kind of encompassing all and tying in that self-awareness. But, if you do find yourself kind of sheltering yourself, isolating yourself from family and friends, whether that's, in the workplace or like as part of your, your career and your leadership role, but especially too on the outside of that, if if things are so stressful that you're not even communicating with friends or family, it's really to kind of make sure that that's not happening. Talk to people that you care about kind of what you're going through. Use them as kind of a means to kind of help, offset some of those feelings if that's within your space. So yeah, it's kind of using that, and also, recognizing too, if in your workplace or in your leadership role, if there's other leaders or other people that you work with, even if they're not, maybe in similar roles, but, something, comparable, or someone that maybe you can offset some of your work to, or it's kind of looking for those spaces and those gaps and recognizing like when is too much, and how can you create better boundaries and really establish that space to, not withdraw and not get to that point. And finally, seek professional help. If it's so within your means, it can really just help to kind of talk to professionals, seek out, a therapist, group, whether that be an individual group or a support group, just talking to other, someone else or others that may be going through some of the same things that you're going through, or just someone to kind of talk through some of those stressors and give you effective coping strategies and tools can be very helpful. So there's some things to consider. So now segueing in to the importance of leaders creating healthy environment for those that you lead. So again, providing that you first taking that step to really set yourself up with some tools and strategies in the best way that you feel you can, or to help better your mental health. It's now kind of taking that space and now seeking what you can do for your employees. So again, just kind of some statistics or kind of points about how much mental health or poor mental health can affect employees. Employees struggling with mental health concerns can be less productive, have higher absentee rates, make fewer contributions, and make poorer decisions. All elements that not only can make your role as a leader in terms of overall company productivity and reaching goals within the organization, but also just on an individual level might make it difficult to kind of work with that, to kind of help assist that individual and keep up with them and make sure that their work projects are going the way that they, maybe should be going. So those are all kind of the negative drawbacks that mental health can have on employees. So again, it kind of is important for leaders to regard their employees' health and as an essential and necessary entity for company success. If you have poor, employees that are not being as productive as they can as a result of their mental health, overall company strategy and success is also going to suffer. Okay, so ways to, pardon my all over the place with my PowerPoint today. So health-focused leadership approaches. These are just a few approaches that are leadership specific that have been, I guess, concentrated around mental health, around health. They can also include physical health and just kind of promoting that within company culture. But, for our purposes, we're going to focus on the mental health aspects. So a few health-focused leadership approaches that leaders can potentially implement to improve mental health and create a healthy work environment for their employees. Health-specific leadership. So this kind of element focuses on promoting health and role modeling positive behaviors. So it's really kind of leaders targeting those aspects around mental health that they want to promote and ensuring that they model those behaviors associated with bettering mental health, so that can kind of translate or fall into their employees. Their employees can see that and kind of adapt those approaches as well. Health-oriented leadership focuses on health behavior, value of health, and health awareness. So that just means, focusing on healthy behavior is maybe leadership's ability to promote health, communicate about effective healthy measures, how to best reach those, how to best have better mental health. Value of health is just that. It's leaders and employees kind of recognizing the value of health and taking responsibility for their health, but leaders being able to, show and demonstrate how much they respect and believe in the importance of their employees' health. And health awareness, again, just kind of being able to recognize and build that awareness of the importance of mental health and kind of creating that environment that always fully recognizes it, so that the appropriate interventions can be taken into account to help alleviate it. And health-focused leadership focuses on prevention and intervention. So prevention is setting up those resources proactively so that employees can get the information, the education, and in advance, before maybe their stress levels reach a point or their mental health kind of starts taking a turn for the worse. So creating that environment that's really in tune with promoting mental health, so that it gives people kind of that space, so that they can manage their mental health, again, proactively. And interventions comes from kind of creating those resources in the organization or in the place, the workspace, for if someone's mental health does take a turn, or they kind of need, they've already kind of crossed that threshold where the proactive measures, are not enough, that those interventions can, those resources are there, so that they can, in the moment after they need that help for their mental health, can access those to get to a better place. And that requires leaders recognizing proactively, or kind of really, watching, engaging, and knowing and noticing when specific employees or as groups, when things are changing and employees' health might be off a little bit. So, the sooner that you can notice that there's a change and intervene, the more likelihood that, it won't get to a level where, there might need to be more interventions, or it kind of crosses that threshold where it's, more maladaptive for the employee. And again, just kind of going further with the discussion of just how to support mental health and create a healthy environment for those you lead. Above all, it's breaking stigmas. I mean, that's kind of like the first step that leaders can take in their workspace. So, we talked about kind of earlier in some slides earlier is normalizing talking about and investing in mental health, opening up about your own mental health as a leader, really, kind of engaging your staff, really creating that space for people to not think it's weird or off-put or just something that they shouldn't talk about, that people will feel comfortable speaking with it. Also, kind of opening it up about it. Again, it goes back to building that trust, creating that environment where, if that communication is open, you're able to recognize, not only be able to hear from your staff more readily, but also able to intervene more proactively and give resources that are going to work more effectively. So it really does take being vulnerable. And there's different ways to do this. It really is kind of adjusting it to your organization. There's just an example. There's a biotech company, Roche Genentech, I believe is the name, where they started a Let's Talk campaign, where a lot of their leadership recorded videos of themselves speaking about their mental health that they shared with their employees. So this kind of created and opened up a space where employees were able to see from their leadership just kind of what they were going through, or kind of things that were on their mind regarding their mental health. They also created this platform where they trained specific employees that also kind of, I guess, as leaders, or offset of leaders, they trained employees to recognize their mental health, that kind of were for their peers, could provide that education on the importance of mental health. So they really wanted to create a company culture where this mental health education was able to be sought at a peer level, but also they were seeing kind of from leadership the vulnerability there, and in the investment that leadership was making on their health. Listening to your team. You're not going to know what your team specifically needs, what the people you need specifically need, if you don't listen to them. So listening to them, this can, again, come in a variety of ways. It can come in check-ins, one-on-one conversations, surveys. There's a lot of different ways to kind of do that. But being able to kind of get that information from them really can set yourself up, can give you the information that you need to effectively set up, kind of those resources that your specific employees need. So it can really gauge you and direct you in terms of what plans and things you need to set up. And that goes into tracking feedback. So if you're actively listening to your staff, you're hearing them, you're knowing what they want, you're seeing what their concerns are. Again, you can't necessarily assume or think that you know what they are. Listening to them, tracking that feedback can really help you gauge what plans you need to put in place, what resources that you need to offer, again, your specific teams that will help them. You need to be a discredit if to implement something that might work for another team, if you're not listening to yours, and not, giving them the resources that they need. there's a lot of different companies that do this. I know just another example, BlackRock, which is an investment company, they are consistently tracking. They do different surveys with their staff and use those surveys to mold or model their mental health practices kind of in the workplace and see what the stressors are for their employees. So there's just like different ways to leverage that. Provide resources. So again, so when you broke stigmas, you've listened to your team, you've tracked their feedback and kind of gauged, what's stressing them out, where can you be flexible, where can you kind of adapt to them, what kind of resources do they need. You can build those resources within the workspace. And again, that can look different from organization to organization. It can look different from team to team. It might mean creating an EAP program, employee assistance program in your workplace if that's capable, or if that's an available option. It could be just making sure that the insurances that your staff has or has a mental health benefit so that they can seek out those services. It might just literally just having those different resources and opening up those conversations, having an open door policy, and kind of just really gauging what your staff needs to make them feel like they're important, that their mental health is important, that they can come to kind of you overall, and just that the company investment is there. An offset of that, or just an additional benefit, showing that you're investing in the health of your employees and your staff and those you lead is also going to show them that you care. So that's going to likely, in its own way, offset some of the stressors, because they're going to feel that they're working in an environment that is there to support them. So not only are you going to help to minimize and proactively have those mechanisms in place so that you can deflect stress when it's rising, but it also builds a stronger community and connection, and kind of a space where they see the investment that's being put into them and their mental health. So just kind of another entity. So grief leadership, a little bit separate, but it's a lot of, I guess grief is a big topic, a big mental health topic that you might be seeing a lot of your employees battling with, kind of experiencing. The last year, as we all know, has been challenging. There's been a lot of loss in a variety of areas, a variety of ways, from a loss of just being able to kind of go out freely, like many of us are used to. Some people actually experience the loss of loved ones, just changes and different entities taken away from what they were used to. So just kind of, again, just to highlight that grief is on high, and what roles can a leader effectively take or kind of review to kind of know how to offset that and be there for their staff. So two things just kind of in grief leadership is communicating effectively. And that means, being visible, being available, kind of goes back to the strategies of, creating that space where employees feel that they can come to you, that they can trust you, that there's an open door policy, that you're kind of available for them to really, share with them what's on their minds. Being transparent. Transparency is key, and that's kind of across elements too. And it's another characteristic that's very admirable in leadership, and can build trust and can build rapport, and can kind of create a healthier work environment. Understanding that people process things differently, and this kind of goes across all areas of mental health, but specifically when you're looking at grief, there's things associated with it. It's recognizing that everyone's going to come to the table and deal with that and manage that differently. So it's not a one size fits all way to approach or to handle kind of that grief. Speaking calmly and encouraging people to work together in the workplace, knowing and providing updates and available resources, and providing frameworks in general, just about if there's changes in the organization that you feel are also going to affect, maybe add an additional layer to some external grief that is being felt outside of the organization. It's kind of really preparing that and being transparent and communicating that. There's a statistic that 28% of employees that feel that that feel like they're not being communicated to effectively by their leadership are more likely to have higher rates of mental illness. So again, the importance of communicating effectively really across all entities, but specifically when there's elements of grief and loss and such. And then aiding in recovery. So focusing on future goals, especially if there's like, grief related in the workplace or things are kind of shifting there. Acknowledging, people who want to help, avoid blaming, just kind of giving people the space and time, bringing people together, expecting that if there is, like, again, a larger scale of grief in the workplace specifically, these are kind of more geared toward if there's changes and losses in the workplace, just kind of recognizing that and bringing a conversation, being open and expecting what can happen within the community, but also communicating effectively around that. And again, above all, it's taking care of yourself, which goes back to kind of just the way you can manage your grief. I mean, your grief possibly, but also just your mental health in general, and also be there to be a more effective leader overall. Again, you can't lead from a space that's half empty. So it's really important first to be there for your staff, that you are taking care of yourself. So yeah, that's kind of concludes the content part of the conversation, or the presentation, but just a little bit about what it's like to work with me. It provides strength-based solutions-focused therapy. My goal really is to empower my clients to get through transitions, difficult transitions, better understand themselves and their behaviors, and improve their overall confidence and self-esteem. And again, as I kind of mentioned in the beginning, I like to blend psychotherapy with leadership coaching to assist my clients in achieving their career goals, overcoming obstacles, just bettering their overall mental health to really effectively, lead themselves, but also lead those that they lead. So with that, now we can take if there's any questions. Don't know where I can see the questions. I apologize. Let me see. Maybe I need to close it. I apologize. I'm getting this. There's some technical things going on right now. What happened? Let me see. Oh, I don't know what.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I apologize. Hi.
Oh, hi, Diane. I can see the questions.
Okay.
Hi, Jess.
You can go. I gotta.
If anybody has a question and they put it in the chat, I can tell Victoria what the question is and she can answer it. But I don't know why I can't see you. I don't know where you went.
I was so confident.
You're doing so good.
Oh, here.
Well, first of all, there you are. Thank you so much. That was so much great information. I was taking notes as a leader. I was like, okay, note to self, some things. Yeah, Jessica says to take your time. The information was great.
All right. Wonderful. I don't know.
Oh, I'm going to shut off my mic, and then any closing remarks you have, they will be able to hear you.
Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Sorry again about the technical mishap, but I'm back. I didn't see any questions in the comments, but that's fine. If you can always send those over after, and I will reach out and give you an answer if I can. But thank you all for joining, and I look forward to connecting with you all in a separate setting than this, or maybe through Be.WELL again. Great. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate it.
Thank you. This was great, and you'll all be able to you'll get an email with a replay, and you can share it with whoever you like, and you can find Victoria at BeWellPsychotherapy.com. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night. Bye. Oh, of course, I don't know how to shut it off.